Okay, good morning everyone. I'm Zayd from CPUT, the Faculty of Education. So I'm situated at the Mowbray campus. Okay, so I want to talk about certain elements of my teaching in relation to the context that I find myself in. So the community, as I mentioned, is situated in the Mowbray campus, and we have two campuses as well, which includes the Wellington campus as well, but the Mowbray one is English, whereas the Wellington one is in Afrikaans. So I teach business education, so I essentially train teachers to teach business studies and economics and accounting at the schools where they will one day teach. So that's just briefly some information with regards to the community, and then the teaching and learning resources at the school. Because the Mowbray campus was essentially a college before, it was taken over by CPUT. Much of our classrooms still function in that manner. So we've got the old FET and TVET college classroom layout, whereas in some classrooms we've got the more updated advanced lecture theatres. So that's just some information with regards to the teaching and learning resources. And then the students, much of our students come from historically disadvantaged communities, and they predominantly speak isiXhosa in that regard. So when I started at CPUT in 2015, I had certain expectations in terms of my students, and to a large extent this was attributed to the fact that when I was a university student, I was expected to engage with my university lecturer. So when I transitioned from a school context towards a university context, I had this expectation that my students should be more forthcoming to engage with me on an equal basis. But to a large extent, I realized that a lot of my students were not forthcoming, in the sense that a lot of them function as isolated silos. And I needed to break this comfort zone amongst my students and create an environment where they would be more forthcoming. So I used the learning management system that we use at CPUT is Blackboard. And what I found out is that Blackboard, to a large extent, restricts many students from actually showing effective expression. So therefore I had to look at the community of inquiry framework, which looks at the cognitive, social and teaching presences. And what I found out with regards to Blackboard are that the students, when they use a learning management system, they automatically associate it with some form of assessment. So therefore I needed to look at using a social networking platform like Facebook, which many of my students were not necessarily used to using in their own personal life context. So I had to use Facebook as a means of disrupting the comfort zones. And what I found out was that a lot of the students started to show a little bit more effective expression in that regard. So for instance, I just want to show you the framework that I just spoke to you about. This is the Community of Inquiry framework by Garrison, Anderson, Archer. So it looks at these three presences: cognitive, social and teaching presences. And what I found out with regards to the learning management system is that the students, they will be able to respond to you in terms of a question, and this can be in the form of an assignment, but the moment they start to respond to your question, it's as if they've now completed that form of assessment. So there's no need to contribute towards the community. So therefore, a lot of the students do not always show effective expression as part of the social presence. What I also found out is that the students are not forthcoming to correcting other students' misconceptions with regards to, for instance, a particular solution or a particular problem. So I found that the students, because of the fact that they are not always engaging with one another, there's this reluctance to want to change someone else's perception or attitude and so forth. However, with Facebook, I found that the students were much more engaging. So I just want to show you this is my ePortfolio that I use. So I also use Plickers, and I regularly use Facebook to allow my students to provide me with free feedback as a means of improving my own teaching and learning. So one of the other reasons as to why I use Facebook is that at CPUT, a lot of our students come from, well, some of them would have dropped out of campus, and they would have returned after a few years, and therefore the particular subject code would have changed. And therefore, for instance, my subject, I would have had but 5-6 different subject codes for one subject, because the curriculum has been continually being renewed. So it was quite a problem for me. In a sense, with Blackboard, you would have to send a message to each different subject code. So with Facebook, I needed to look at that. How could I communicate with every single student without them receiving the correct information? So that's one of the reasons why I also use Facebook, together with the Community of Inquiry framework. And it's been quite successful for me with regards to them being more open, as you can see from some of the screenshots. So that's some of the challenges that I've been faced with regards to Facebook. And if there are any questions, you can more or less ask me.
Thanks, Zayd.
Okay.
We're going to have our discussion afterwards, so thank you for that. So we've got one last presentation from Samantha.